Sports have long brought out the superstitious side in athletes and fans. The same can be said when it comes to the leading combat sports promotion on the planet, the UFC. While logic dictates that talent, conditioning, and game plan are the factors that decide fights, many believe that adhering to certain rituals and traditions can yield a favorable outcome. That said, some fans and fighters alike are convinced that some things are to be avoided to escape the wrath of the MMA gods. Failure to do so will result in the fighter being cursed and in turn suffering consequences ranging from a loss to potentially career-ending injury. So if you're an inspiring fighter, keep the following curses in mind and make sure to avoid them at all costs. It could be the difference between you becoming the second coming of George St. Pierre or turning out to be the next CM Punk. Beat Jon Jones curse. The Jon Jones curse has emerged as an infamous superstition in the UFC light heavyweight division over the years. It is founded upon the belief that contenders who put on impressive 5-round performances against Bones suffers a stretch of bad luck after challenging for the title. For that reason, it is also called the I almost beat Jon Jones curse, but that's too long and not as catchy, so let's stick with the original. For the longest time, no challenger in the UFC's 205-pound division ever got close to beating Jones, but as of late, a few title contenders rose to the occasion and gave the indomitable superstar a run for his money. Unfortunately, the few individuals who came close to dethroning JBJ have suffered terrible defeats after their encounter with the light heavyweight GOAT. Alexander Gustafsson, Anthony Smith, Thiago Santos, and Dominic Reyes are those who have fallen victim to the curse. Jon Jones may have one defeat on his record, but the Jon Jones curse is undefeated. The Curse of the Irish Dragon. Also known as the Paul Felder Curse, this superstitious belief dictates that every fighter who manages to defeat the Irish Dragon will go on to lose his next fight. And what do you know? According to the data, the curse is 100% accurate. The Philadelphian has lost to a total of 6 opponents, and out of those 6, 5 had gone on to lose their next fight. The most notable victims of this curse are Dan Hooker and Mike Perry. Hooker, who defeated Felder on the scorecards, was bested by Dustin Poirier in his very next fight. Perry, meanwhile, edged Felder via split decision, only to get submitted by Donald Cerrone in his next outing. The last man to beat Felder is former lightweight champ Rafael dos Anjos, and as RDA is gearing up for a showdown against the fast-rising Spitfire Rafael Fiziev, it's safe to assume that the curse of the Irish Dragon will claim another victim. The Chael Sonnen curse. You can call Chael Sonnen a lot of things: a veteran of the cage, the greatest talker in the fight game, one of the best wrestlers in MMA, and a very entertaining combat sports analyst. However, Sonnen doesn't appear to be on point when it comes to his predictions. His unbelievable level of inaccuracy was what led many to believe that his predictions were actually cursed. In many cases, even fighters considered to be huge favorites ended up losing after Uncle Chael cast a prediction in their favor. Conor McGregor, Israel Adesanya, and Stipe Miocic are some of the most notable victims of the Chael Sonnen curse. English MMA fans were so terrified of the curse that they apparently asked Uncle Chael to pick against Darren Till ahead of UFC Vegas 36, a request that good old Chael obliged. Unfortunately for Till, he still ended up losing to Derek Brunson that night. It's safe to say that the gorilla needs more help than Uncle Chael's magic. A change of camp, perhaps. The UFC cover curse. Making it to the cover of a video game is a good thing, right? After all, that signifies that you're one of, if not the biggest star in the company. Well, not if you believe in jinxes. Whenever a star athlete is featured on the cover of a video game, they are absolutely doomed. Here's a brief rundown of the UFC video game cover curse and the athletes who suffered some bleak consequences. Jon Jones and Alexander Gustafsson were on the cover of the first EA Sports UFC game. Several months after the game's release, Jones was stripped of his title after being involved in a hit-and-run accident. As for Gustafsson, he would get brutally knocked out in his first fight since being featured on the cover. UFC 2 features 2 of the most popular stars in MMA history, Ronda Rousey and Conor McGregor. Both were finished in their next fight after the cover had been revealed in December 2015. UFC 3 also had McGregor on the cover. He went on to lose his very next fight to Khabib Nurmagomedov. Jorge Masvidal and Israel Adesanya starred on the cover of UFC 4. Masvidal was dominated in his next fight by Kamaru Usman. Meanwhile, Adesanya was able to break the curse by spectacularly finishing Paulo Costa to retain his crown. The curse of Khabib vs. Ferguson. Unlike any of the curses on this list, This one doesn't appear to affect any other fighter outside of Khabib Nurmagomedov and Tony Ferguson. However, it is possibly the most depressing curse of UFC fans. One of the most anticipated matchups in the promotion's history, Tony Ferguson vs Khabib Nurmagomedov, hasn't happened despite several rebookings. This fight has been cancelled a total of 5 times. Back in 2015, both men are on the rise and were en route to a collision course when Khabib was forced to withdraw due to a rib injury. It was rescheduled 4 months later, but once again nixed after El Cucuy suffered an injury in training camp. 3rd time's the charm, right? Not if a curse is involved, apparently. Khabib and Ferguson were once again matched up in 2017 for an interim title fight. Unfortunately, Khabib was rushed to the hospital the day before the fight due to extreme dehydration. A year later, Ferguson was the interim champ and a 4th fight had been made for the undisputed title. What prevented this matchup from taking place? Ferguson tripped over an electrical cord and severely injured his knee. A freaking electrical cord. Once again, the fight was called off. At this point, it's just getting ridiculous. Fast forward to 2020, Khabib is the undisputed lightweight champion and Ferguson is still on a long winning streak. When a 5th fight was announced, UFC fans rejoiced. At this point, the COVID-19 pandemic was in full effect and kept Khabib from traveling from Russia to the US. Again, the fight was scratched. Now, Khabib is retired and Ferguson has suffered a massive decline. It's safe to assume that this matchup is likely never happening. It just wasn't meant to be. And that's the end of our list. If you like this video, please like and share. Don't forget to subscribe to Sportskeeda MMA on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and Snapchat.